The 18th day of January, but allow me to reiterate Happy New Year to you and welcome to your world. Now, a lot of jokes have been made on how we should handle or even plan for this year. I'm sure you've had usiingie na hii mwaka ukiwa na kierere, enda pole pole, you never know what will happen, all because of how the last one turned out. However, truth be told, despite the curveball that was 2020, I believe we are better prepared to deal with the uncertainty of life. As such, this morning we take stock of the resolutions we made walking into this year, if any, and try figure out how we can ensure we see them through no matter the circumstances 2021 hands us. I am talking about being intentional as we pursue a better life for ourselves. I will also be joined by individuals who have turned on or had to rethink their lives' direction either by choice or by force. My name is Gladys Gashanja, but before we get to all that, here's what else you can expect. As I mentioned, today we talk about the new year and why you should set intentions and probably not resolutions. Religious leaders across the globe speak about grief and faith while living with the virus.
A person that has a clear vision is working from the future.
Our very own Brian will be talking to Mr. T about the need to be careful with the goals that we set. And across the borders, high fences are installed around the White House ahead of Wednesday's U.S. presidential inauguration. Thank you for joining us this morning, and our question of the day to you is, did you set any resolutions for this year? If not, why? I know it's the 18th day of January, they say. Most often than not, by now, people are already falling off that wagon. So the question of the day to you again is, did you set any resolutions for this year? And if not, let us know why. And we shall be, you can do that on our social media handles. So remember, we shall be looking at those comments. And of course, we'll be talking about the same in a moment. But for now, let's take a look at the impact of COVID-19 around the world in terms of the statistics. And this morning, that number stands at 95,479,062 confirmed cases around the world. Out of that number, 68,167,161 have totally recovered from the same. And those who have succumbed to COVID-19, unfortunately, has surpassed that 2 million mark. It stands at 2,039,601 people. So how does it look like in the country? Well, 99,162 confirmed cases in the country, 83,350 people have totally recovered, with the government saying that home-based care is really turning out to be a great success. And unfortunately, we have lost 1,731 Kenyans to COVID-19. Well, as they say, do not let your guard down. It might look like we are getting used to living with a pandemic, but then again, those three measures that are being put across are very important. Ensure that you wash your hands regularly with soap and water. If you do not have that, use your alcohol-based sanitizer. And of course, wear your mask and practice social distancing. For now, let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines. Now, as the death toll from COVID-19 surpasses the 2 million mark, local religious leaders across the globe speak about grief and faith. The coronavirus pandemic has been a time of suffering and loss, while restrictions have curtailed worship and even funerals.
One of our challenges is as ministers that we had to resort to digital means of doing our sermons in terms of voice messages, video recordings, live streaming, YouTubing to reach our members, also making use of the WhatsApp chat. It happened a lot of times during this time that even the other day somebody said, "Will you send a message of hope to my brother-in-law who's fighting COVID in hospital?" And I did the voice recording and I got a response from the patient back saying thank you, because he could still at that point speak. So those are the moments that we celebrate.
The things like that, because in the beginning it was COVID keeps you busy with every other thing besides God. And I had to, with my son's illness, he's taught me just remain calm. Even through his illness, he has taught me remain calm. And I just try to do that. And not focus on the people are dying. Yes, the people are dying. I'm the one who have to keep record of people that's dying. Seeing what is happening. See whose name you have to, scratch off the list.
Yeah, so it's been really tough. Emotionally, spiritually, you're asking God why. There's so many questions. But I think our faith, we've got our faith and we know we believe in. And I think God is faithful that He will get us through this.
Unfortunately, that is the reality we're still living in, even as the whole world reels in this pandemic. Now, a COVID victim is buried in Harare after the Zimbabwean government announced a ban on transporting corpses. Now, the deceased have to be buried in the city where they died to prevent the further spread of the virus throughout the country. This goes against culture, where the departed are supposed to lay in the same place as their ancestors.
Bodies are that just taking the body and burying it. I think the only thing they should ban may be viewing. If it's contagious, maybe viewing, yes. But transporting the body that is in the casket, I don't see anything that is bad about transporting the body to their respective places.
Now, half a century since Egypt's groundbreaking Aswan Dam was inaugurated with much fanfare, harnessing the Nile for hydropower and irrigation, the giant barrier is still criticized for its human and environmental toll. It is also a stark reminder amid high tensions today as Addis Ababa feels its colossal Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam upstream of just how volatile politics over the life-giving but finite Nile water resources can be done. Now, the Aswan High Dam was spearheaded in the early 1950s by charismatic pan-Arabist the President Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, where the river provides some 97% of water for more than 100 million people and is the final section of the Nile's 6,650-kilometer 10-nation journey to the Mediterranean. For millennia, the North African country was at the mercy of a seasonal rise and fall of the river, dependent on the rainfall in nations far upstream. But there's one high dam dwarfing the far small Aswan Low Dam, built under British rule in 1902, crucially gave Cairo power to regulate the flow. Down south in South Africa, the province of KwaZulu-Natal is one of the main destinations for seaside tourism. To safeguard this, authorities have implemented a controversial shark net system to protect bathers from sharks, but which has also prompted criticism from environmentalists.
2, 1. For me, this was such an incredible experience. They're really majestic animals underwater, and to just dive with them and see them in their natural habitat is amazing.
We used to call it a tiger shark dive. We've had to change the name because we can't call it a tiger shark dive anymore because we're seeing them so seldom. So over the last couple of years, it sadly they've decreased in numbers dramatically.
Basically, curtains of death. They're a passive system that's been put in the water, and anything that puts its head in that net dies. That's how a gill net works.
In an attempt to reduce the bycatch of the harmless animals, over the last 15 years, we've reduced about 15 kilometres of nets and replaced them with 177 drum lines. Those are simply baited hooks suspended below a drum.
By having them there and knowing that they actually don't prevent large sharks coming to the swimming beaches is giving people a false security, but it's also signaling to people that sharks are dangerous and we must protect them. Whereas in actual fact, we've got to change people's minds.
Well, we get to that conversation of the day, and today we are not only trying to figure out if you set your resolutions for this year, ensuring that we actually keep at it all through the year, but also understanding how exactly we can do that. And I hear there is a huge difference between setting resolutions and actually setting intentions. And we have a couple of people in studio to help us understand exactly where we would like to be at the end of this year. With me in studio, I have Sissy Ojani Beko, who is an executive and wellness coach. She's also the founder of the Main Protagonist Coaching. We are also joined by Elma Order in the other studio, who is a virtual assistant. Also joining us in our newsroom studio is Enoch Magak, who is a social media manager. And joining us virtually, we have Juliana Mutisia, who is an accountant and an entrepreneur. Thank you all for joining us on this conversation. And I'll start off with you, Sissy. I have just mentioned there is a huge difference, perhaps, between setting resolutions and setting intentions. What's the difference?
That's a really good question. What I like to say to my clients is to think about what you want to experience for the next 12 months. Mm-hmm. And this is actually something you don't have to wait till January to do it. You can do it in June, you can do it in December. Just think about what you want to experience over the next 12 months, what you want to be doing, what you don't want to be doing, how you want your life to look. That is an intention. And you need to get into the details of it, right? Because the magic is in the details. A lot of people, Gladys, don't achieve their desires because they're too vague. I just want to be happy. But what does that mean? What does that mean for your work? What does that mean for your relationship? What does that mean for your relationship with your children? What does that mean for your relationship with your friends? When you get into the details, this is what intentionality is. You're committed. You're really thinking about it. You're getting into the details. What does I want to be healthy mean for you? See, for me, I want to be healthy does not mean I'm going to the gym, because I'm not a gym person. I like to walk, I like to swim, I like to be out in nature. So two people can have very different desires for what I want to be healthy looks like. So being intentional about the details and then thinking about the little and big actions that you need to take so that those desires become a reality. Now, the challenge with resolutions is quite often they come from outside of us. Intentions come from within. So there's a requirement to be really authentic about what you want. What I want might not be what my best friends want, might not be what my parents want, might not be what, it's got to come from within so that it's sustainable. If it really resonates with you, you're going to keep doing it. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
now, of course, we're coming off a year that was very uncertain, and we're still going through with the uncertainty, but somehow have found our footing in how to deal with it all. So most would say, I'd rather not put down my resolutions or intentions at all, because last year I did, and guess what happened? What do you think, and what has been your experience?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And if you talk to any coach or psychologist, they'll tell you that although a lot of things have changed, some things remain the same. Yeah, you still have influence over how your life goes. So for me, for example, Gladys, I used to engage in a lot of organizational training face to face. Now, last year, I could have just crawled up into a little ball and cried because we were not meeting face to face. But I have influence over how that area of my business goes. So what I chose to do, and this is again the intention, is to let all my clients know, hey, we can do this virtually. And my world opened up. I partnered with other coaches in other parts of the world, like the UK. We ran workshops for people in different parts of the world at the same time because it was all virtual. So you see, as I said, a lot has changed, but a lot still stays the same. And one of the things that remains is you still have influence over how you feel day to day. You still have influence over who you want around you. There's actually a joke that I'm saying to people these days. I actually put it on my Facebook in December where I said, some of you are happy that you don't get to hang out with some of your relatives in December. Tell the truth. And, you know, people laughed and all this. But there are some positives that are coming out of this. We're becoming way more intentional about how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, because the stress levels were so high. And a lot of the things we were putting up with in 2019 and before, people just found that they were not able to put up with in 2020 and moving forward. So you still have the power to make plans. You still have influence over how your life goes. People were extremely creative last year. I know a colleague of mine, for example, in her 40s, she called her sister up and said, why don't we move in together? You know, why should I live alone with my son and you're living alone with your kids? Let's move in together. And they, of course, you haven't lived with your sister in decades, right? And it ended up working out really well. And the cousins got to see each other every day and spend time with one another every day. So your creativity is also still valid.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right. And we'll delve further into that in a moment. Speaking of changes and what 2020 was and how it forced some people to change and others took choices to change something about their lives. For Alma, it's about how life forced you to change things around. What happened?
Well, prior to COVID, I was working as a consultant engineer and I was living and working in the UK. So that for me was everything I knew, and that was what felt like my dream life or my ideal life. Anyway, so COVID happened and I was made redundant. And so, you know, in the process of all of this happening, I traveled back to Kenya. And, you know, not knowing what I was going to do with myself, how I was going to do anything really. But in the process of trying to figure all of that and trying to kind of get over what had happened, I started researching, you know, what exists out there for me to do other than, you know, working in engineering as I had been. And, you know, especially because my field of engineering is quite niche. So I was working as an acoustic engineer. And so I knew in Kenya that would be almost impossible to do. And so, you know, Google has a lot, you know, from multi-level marketing to drop shipping, just a ton of wild things, to be honest. And then I came across being a virtual assistant. Now, you know, if you asked me 10 months ago what that meant, I had no idea. And so I spent a lot of time researching and trying to figure out how I could marry all of that with what I already knew. Of course, you know, my skill set like my technical skills had nothing to do with being a virtual assistant, but I had to adapt everything that I knew. I had to import skills. I had to transfer skills. You know, yeah, it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
But I'm here now, and I'm really, really grateful I took that leap of faith. And I think if I didn't, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here today.
Very true,
yeah.
very true. And it's a leap of faith that you were forced to take, but either way
Yes.
you heeded to the same. Quick one for our viewers. Who or what does an acoustic engineer do?
Right. So the field of acoustic engineering is extremely broad, but I specialized in building and architectural acoustics. So essentially that deals with the design of spaces, internal and external, you know, to improve the listening experience essentially. And it also kind of delves into sustainability when, you know, you get into looking at offices and well-being of workers. One of the things I would say is the NTV studios have been designed fairly well, so that's a plus.
I hear you. So now you're a virtual assistant. What do you do?
Right. So at the moment, I focus on business operations, so back-end business operations and system strategy. And I particularly work with multi-passionate women because that's how I identify myself. So I primarily work with women. And I think one of the most common services that I offer is strategy, just sitting down with my clients and working out strategies for their, either it's an online business, you know, like a social media business, or they are, you know, social influencers, or they are life coaches and wellness coaches. So that's the kind of stuff that I do.
Excellent. And Sissy is one of them, so perhaps
Yes.
you guys can hook up
Yeah,
after this. But then again, Sissy,
Yeah.
for Alma's situation, she was forced into it. But you hear how she somehow found her footing into blending engineering and virtual assistance. Talk about the importance of being versatile and open to this forced calling, so to speak.
Well, I really love her story because she did exactly what we're talking about here today. She chose to make lemonade out of the lemons she was handed. She was creative. So she realized that she had influence over her situation. She wasn't a victim. And I like what you said. It's not easy. It's certainly not easy. It requires a lot of mental strength. You need to be vulnerable. It was very, very important. It is still very, very important to be vulnerable. And by vulnerable, as coaches, we mean, it doesn't mean you're weak. It just means things like calling up your friends, calling up your colleagues and saying, I'm not okay. You know, I had to do that at the start of 2020 when things started to fall apart for everybody. I made a pact with 2 other coaches, and we agreed that even as we're helping other people, let's also help one another. So we were in touch more often than not, sharing our own stories, discussing what we could do, how we could be creative. So and that helps with resilience. There's nothing harder than feeling alone in a situation. But the more you talk to people you trust, the more you'll realize actually we're all in this together. We're all in this together. So part of what will help build resilience is that vulnerability, being able to talk to someone openly and honestly, right? It's not pretending everything is fine for me. It's openly and honestly, like, these are the challenges I'm having. So for me, for example, Gladys, I have to be honest, I really do miss traveling because I have that spirit. I have that spirit. I love people. I love exploring new things. I love learning from different cultures. A lot of people can't figure out where my last name is from. You know, I married an Australian who has Iraqi and American background, so that's who I am. Now, when we stopped traveling, I told myself, that's okay, this is great. you know, we need to save the environment and all this kind of thing. And maybe traveling was just something I liked to do, but it wasn't a big part of who I am. Mm-hmm. And as the months went on and on and on, I realized, oh my goodness, I really do love being exposed to different environments. So I managed to do travel locally, and I got to fall in love with Kenya again. And this is such a beautiful country. So it's important to just be honest. And I'm talking to a lot of people who are saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, gosh, we really miss hanging out with the friends we used to hang out with as often. You know, Kenya is very much a country where we love to network and meet face to face and this kind of thing. So there's also something happening which is important for everyone to be aware of. Those of us who are still working and are still productive and are still earning a salary, you might think, oh, I have nothing to complain about, let me just keep quiet. But the reality is there's a low-level grief that even we are feeling. Mm-hmm. So for example, I have a 3.5-year-old daughter, and my in-laws, her grandparents, haven't had a chance to see her in a year. And it's painful. Mm-hmm. I'm even feeling some type of way talking about it, because she's the only granddaughter. So in our heads, we can say, but we're so blessed, and we are, but it's important to acknowledge the grief, you know, the grief we're experiencing. There's the grief of losing loved ones, but again, some of us haven't lost loved ones, but we're grieving all the other things we've lost. I went to a cafe on, I think it was Thursday, and I found myself, first of all, thinking as I'm entering the car, should I go to the cafe? And I'm like, okay, let me go to the cafe. And then I enter that cafe, and as I'm walking to the door, I'm thinking, where should I sit? And these are the sorts of little things that are now happening in our minds, and they are wearing us down. So it's really, really important to get the help. A counselor, a coach, be physically active. There's so many levels to which you can, that we can talk about in terms of your health and well-being. Okay. Yeah, so resilience comes also from just acknowledging that, yes, I have a job, yes, I have a salary, yes, I'm very blessed, but I'm also feeling really bad about the things that I've lost.
And change comes in different ways. As I said, some are forced into it, some choose to go into it, and some even have choices in between. And for Juliana, it's actually the latter. Juliana, you are an accountant by profession, but then again, when the pandemic hit, you had to look elsewhere to make an extra income. How did that journey start?
Oh, well, I have been an accountant, I could say, my whole life. Then I also do a little farming. Then hit Corona, and the local market where I do my sales got closed. The farmhand calls me and says, well, we have the produce, what do we do with it? And I thought, what do we do? Before that, one of my other businesses is school transport. Of course, the van was outside here doing nothing, still fixed with the kids. So I thought, well, get the van, get the seats out, collect the farm produce, bring it to Nairobi. I happen to be blessed to live in an estate that is pretty big, that has very many people. And I thought, I have the market, I have the people, why not give it a try? So the seats got out of the van, it went to the farm, brought the produce. I opened the back of the van, and I started selling them. And surprise, 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 I had a market for the produce.
Look at you, look at you. Now, you mentioned earlier to me that before even the pandemic hit, you tried that business, then at some point it kind of just folded. But the pandemic reminded you of how important it was, right?
Oh, yes, it was. When I had started it earlier, I would sell, one weekend, the next weekend I didn't feel like it. Then eventually I quit. So when the pandemic came, I started, and now I can't quit because I realized it's actually a business that can flourish. It's a business that can grow. In addition to my being an accountant, I realized I can actually be a businesswoman, selling and buying. So it's pretty something.
Interesting. And you also say now you would like to put it online so that you're able to balance out the many balls you have in the air, right?
Yes, I'm working on getting an online system, mostly so that it's easier to do. Because right now I do physical, I do of course WhatsApp, but if I go online, then I'll have a bigger reach, I'll have a market that is wider. Of course, it will come with its own challenges, logistics, and getting the produce to where it's needed, given that it's fresh produce. But I'm ready for it. I have taken time to think about it, to strategize. And I think when I get online, I'll be able to satisfy my customers, as many as they may be. And I'm looking forward to a big customer base.
Excellent. And just a reminder that Elma is here with us, and that's what she does. So she could be somebody you look into to partner with. And back to you, Sissy. I mean, it's amazing how people have been able to get out of their comfort zones, try new things, and be wowed by what was outside the box, so to speak. Talk about that.
I'm just grinning because I love these sorts of stories. There are many blessings in this situation. There really are. And I know a lot of people get frustrated with positive thinking and positive talk, but the truth is there really are blessings in this situation, but you have to see them. You have to be the one to see them. So, for example, in all the stories that we've heard today, people have embraced. Now, I know that a lot of people struggle with that word, let me embrace this change. So the word I like to use is cooperate. It's happening. It's happening. Cooperate with this change. And that's what all the ladies we've heard from thus far have done. You know, to be an accountant and to realize, oh, well, okay, but I've got all this produce. What do I do with it? Hang on, I live in this estate. The customers are here. Let me give it a go. And it's just wonderful. So I love hearing stories like this because it proves that when you cooperate with the change, yes, you can feel bad for a bit, but when you cooperate with the change and you just allow yourself to be flexible and not get caught up in your identity. See, that's the other thing. So if I'm married to the identity of coach, it'll become difficult for me to pivot. If you're married to the identity of accountant, it becomes difficult for you to pivot. So these are all external things. You know, you're not born an accountant, you're not born an executive coach, you're not born a virtual assistant. These are just things you do. So one of the things I was telling my clients was, embrace this change in your identity. Being an accountant is what you do, it's not who you are. And the people who struggled a lot in 2020 were the people who were rigid, inflexible, married to a certain identity. I heard a lot of stories about jet setters, for example, people who identified as a jet setter, traveling around, doing amazing things around the world, and now you're at home and you're a little square on the Zoom, in the Zoom meeting. So we can also laugh about some of these things. But truly, truly, the more flexible you are, the less married you are to a particular identity, the easier it will be for you to flow and change and cooperate with the changes that are happening right now.
Excellent. Now let's listen to the guy on this panel, Enoch Magak. Now, your story reads a little bit different. You walked into something totally different from what you had been doing since university, not because of a pandemic, but because you chose to. Talk about that.
All right. Good morning, Gladys, and good morning, everybody. I don't know when we stop saying Happy New Year, but I'm so glad that at least I'm meeting you, Gladys, and everybody for the first time. So Happy New Year once more again. So what I have come to note is that in life, we always come up with different goals. We always come up with different dreams. But then the kind of, setup that we have, especially in terms of education, can a little bit make you flip, into another side of the coin, not what you intended to do in life. So, well, I am a person who at first had dreamt to be a radio presenter, a TV anchor like you, Gladys, and many people always actually admire what they do. But then, when I went through school, I found myself in a bank. So I worked in a bank for more than 4 years. But then every time I would walk into the bank, every time I wake up early in the morning and get to my daily activities, there's that thing I wasn't feeling in myself. Yes, there is money. There are good guys you're interacting with. There's a good culture within. You know, all those things that we admire when we grow up, when you feel like you want to be in a suit, you want to drive, all those things. I was actually seeing them. I was actually seeing that this is going to happen when I'm working in the bank. But then things changed in my mind. What you said, an intention. I felt like this is not me at this moment. Why would you wake up early in the morning and lie to people that you're working for them, you're smiling with them, but in yourself, you feel this is not what I'm supposed to do. So I decided to leave the bank. And I felt I wanted to engage myself in another career path, which was now the media. So I went and furthered my education, of course. I did my master's in digital communication, which I'm glad I am done with right now. So I was so happy every day I woke up in the morning to do my shows at USIU Radio, because that's what I was doing within that period when I had stopped working in the bank. I felt that this is what I wanted to do every day. But you know, of course, with this COVID-19, almost everything fell apart. Yes, savings ran out. I don't have a job. And I'd taken a risk that every time I would sit down and fast and pray and actually look at my book and check on the goals and the values and everything that I wanted to achieve. But I felt like, you know, it was a big risk that I took and I didn't know how to handle it. But well, somehow, because I'd gone to further my skills in digital communication, I felt there's something else again to do. Well, that's why I started actually doing things on social media whereby now I'm able to create social media campaigns and so forth and manage other people's platforms and so forth and so forth. Something that I'm happy right now doing. Not like when I was actually back in the bank.
Oh, wow. So the bank was your first job off of school, right?
It was my first ever.
Okay. And
Yes.
Sisi, I love what he's talking about. Passion vis-a-vis what society or what you think you should be doing to get all these other things that look like they define what success is about.
Yeah.
Talk about the value of living your passion.
Well, oh my gosh, I mean, his story tells it all. You know, I must confess, I went to law school and never became a lawyer. So, tuko wengi. Tuko wengi. Here's the thing, right? Passion might sound like a fluffy word. A lot of people will clap back and say, that's not realistic, you know, passion is not going to pay the rent. But that's actually not true. You need the passion in order for the endeavor to be sustainable. Yeah, there are aspects of every job that are a bit dry, they're not very interesting, but if you have that inner passion, if you are excited about what you're doing, even those dry, mundane tasks take on a different meaning. You know, there comes a time, especially in the life of every business owner, and this is something that's not talked about, Gladys. So let me just confess. There comes a time in every business owner's life when you start resenting your business, you start getting bored of your business, you're grinding away all day, all night, you're thinking about it on the weekends, and we have these plateaus as business owners, and it's a source of real distress. And what helps you get through, there are many things that can help you get through that low time, but passion is one of those things. When you come back to, but why am I doing this again? And then you remember the difference you're making in your business partners' lives, in your clients' lives, in your customers' lives. That is what passion is good for. It keeps you going, it keeps you going, it keeps you going. When you don't enjoy your job, any small thing really knocks you around. Any small thing really knocks you around. So for me, I'm a really big fan of being genuinely interested in what you do for work. You're there all the time, whether you're at work face to face or whether you're working virtually. Now we're staring at our computers all day, every day. So there has to be something somewhere in there that makes you genuinely interested, genuinely passionate in that job so that you can keep doing it. Now, passion fades as well. You know, you might be interested in something in your 20s, you grow up, you're interested in different things in your 30s, and it's simply a matter of doing what Enoch did, which is you can, first of all, acknowledge that, but then start educating yourself, start learning, be curious about, okay, what else is there that I can do? So it's not to say that you have to be stuck doing the same thing. People are allowed to change their careers, and a lot of people have done so successfully. But what will really keep you going is having that genuine interest from the beginning.
And we're talking about setting intentions, which are a way of giving you sort of a compass into what you can do for yourself and actually sustain it. And Alma, when we talk about passion, you wanted to be an acoustic engineer, was already practicing it. Now you're a virtual assistant. Do you still have your heart skipping a bit every time you do this every morning?
You know, I really do. And I think that's why as I said in the beginning, I love working with multi-passionate women. You know, you can be passionate about a ton of different things and be good at all of those things. I'm a firm believer in doing what makes you genuinely happy. You know, being stuck doing something that you don't love can be really frustrating, especially, you know, life is short. And I think, you know, last year in COVID really brought that to the surface for a lot of people, that, you know, life is short. And I know so many people who discovered that they were not doing something that made them happy. So, you know, my heart skips a beat every morning, you know, when I'm working, talking to my clients. That for me is great. That's not to say that if I went back into consulting, engineering, I wouldn't be happy. I would still be equally happy. So, yeah, I think that's how I feel.
All right. And apart from the passion, as Sissy is saying, you also have to be intentional in as far as equipping yourself for the new task. What have you done to ensure that you're top of the game in that industry?
One thing I had to do, among other things, is to upskill myself. And, you know, upskilling might sound like, you know, I went and took a whole other university course, but I actually didn't. You know, part of my research involved finding a ton of amazing free or, you know, relatively affordable courses online. And so I took a ton of those just to, you know, get myself staying on top of the game. And another thing that I do is I have found, you know, very many other virtual assistants around the world who kind of have formed a tribe around me, and I've also formed a tribe, you know, with them. And, you know, it helps if you come across something you don't know how to do it. There's always somebody to speak to and be like, oh, you know, have you done this, or have you used this system, or, you know, have you tried out this? How has it worked? You know, is it something that I can do? And that's really helpful. Having people who you can talk to, who can keep you accountable, that's really, really helpful.
Excellent. And for you, Juliana, accountant, now who is a farmer and doing very well at it, were you the first amongst your peers to do this, or did you learn a thing or two from your peers?
Well, no. In fact, when I started the business, I really had to find out, do I know what to do? I happen to come from a Bachelor of Commerce background where we learn, you know, we are trained as business people. But when it comes to the real business, the challenge is real, you know. The issues come at you and you're thinking, oh, did I learn that? Did I really see this? Was this ever in the syllabus? Was it covered in class? And so I had to get learning also. I got to learning how to run a business, the little things about a business, and by little I mean the things that will make you quit. For example, when I started this business, they're waking up every Saturday morning and getting to take my stock every morning and getting to count every little product that comes in and ensuring that I know exactly what I'm selling was quite exhausting. I'm not a morning person. I don't like to suffer, so to speak. And I thought, I could quit. But, I realized I have made a decision to do this. I have customers waiting on me. So that actually kept me on my toes. Every morning, they'd be asked, when is it coming? What time is the van arriving? And I realized I had an obligation to the people that I promised I would do this, to keep going, and mostly to myself. Just to sit through and to get it going. So I got learning a lot. One of the main courses I took was a sandbox project. They refer to it as roadmap, which took us through the business process from the beginning to the end. And I must say that was one of the best courses I ever took. It was a rush. I just one day saw it and I thought, you know what, I should do this. And I took it up and it was an amazing course. It showed me my business from A to Z. And I sit here today knowing what to do, when to do it, and most importantly, knowing why I quit the first time and making sure I don't quit again.
Excellent.
So I had to learn also.
Juliana, learning from your lessons in the past and, of course, being intentional to stay well in the market and successful at that. And for you, Enoch, you said you already did your master's in digital communication. You're now practicing it. But as we know, this is one space that's very dynamic. It seems to be changing every day. So what are you doing to stay on top of the game?
Well, COVID-19 actually helped, what I would say, our career kind of blossom. And I believe most of the organizations, most of the individuals actually embraced anything to do with online digital platforms. I believe digital marketing, social media, content creation, search engine optimization, all those things are very broad. So I have to redefine my skills and exactly concentrate on what I want to do, which is actually social media management, whereby I already learned, of course, at school on how to create social media campaigns in line with the company or individual's objectives, leveraging, the current trends, and also using the target demographic data to curate, design, and create content for my clients or my customers. I've also learned on how to improve and update their social media platforms so that I'm able to create more engagement, I'm able to have more reach, I'm able to speak to more audience, tell stories on those platforms. Now, something good with digital communication or digital marketing or all those terms that we can use in digital space is you can learn. You can go and do tutorials every day. There are tutorials that are done on YouTube. You can also go and register for premiums, for example, on LinkedIn Learning, LinkedIn e-learning, and many other online platforms which can actually continue updating your skills so that you're not left behind. I believe that more than 70% of the customers or even clients who interact with the social media platforms are able to purchase a product or even believe that this is an authenticated kind of informational product that is being endorsed. So what I've also done mostly is also to create connections as well with the ones who've been in the industry, in the digital space for quite a while. Yeah. But above all, I also noted that if I create webinars and start educating, my clients and anybody who is interested, then I'm able also to sharpen my skill. Most of the time, I'm able to understand what their needs are. I'm also able to continue updating, the digital trends every now and then, so that at least I can keep myself on a level that I'm able to make my clients happy all the time.
Excellent. Now, what I hear a lot in all the three panelists is that there's a huge level of discipline, and also the fact that what started off as something that you want to do because you're forced into it or you chose to walk into it has now gotten another sort of support system, which is now the customer and the obligation you have to them.
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Well, this is the thing. This is why the intention is so important. This is why the passion is so important, because it will drive you. I love how, I love the point you're making about how, you know, it becomes something else. You know, a business anything you create, including a business, develops a life of its own. That's why our ideas are called brain children. They're not biological children, but they are brain children. They go through the same process. There's when it's still a little baby and you're figuring things out. There's when your business becomes a little bit older. There's when your business becomes a teenager. And then when the business becomes, it's been around for so long, it's an adult. And at each of those stages, different things are required. And this is where the discipline comes in. Now, if we just circle back, discipline becomes very hard if you're not passionate. If you're not genuinely interested, it becomes very, very hard to maintain that discipline. But one of the things I like to say to my clients is to focus on who you're helping. Business is about solving problems. It's about solving problems. And there is a ripple effect. I was really happy to hear Juliana talk about Sandbox because one of the co-founders is actually a former client of mine. We worked together many, many years ago. And all of us who are, it may be a business, it may not be a business, but whatever it is you're creating, whatever project it is you're putting your time, energy, effort, and passion into, it develops a life of its own, and it has ripple effects beyond even what you can see. So this is why this time is also really, really exciting, Gladys, because you get to reinvent yourself. You get to reinvent yourself. Yeah, as you say, either because you've been forced to or because you decided, this is wonderful, let me reinvent myself. So this goes back to what I was saying about there are a lot of blessings in this time if you just choose to see them. Now, having said that, when we talk about passion, it is a privilege. You know, many of us, especially in a country like Kenya, we don't have the ability to quickly pivot and to quickly, you know, quit our jobs and do what we want. But what I have found is those of us who can, those of us who are, we are in the best position to help others. Because when you're down in the dumps, depressed or frustrated or struggling financially, for example, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to look around you and see how you can help others. So happiness, I say, is the gift that keeps on giving. Joy is the gift that keeps on giving. And those of us who are privileged to do these things that we're talking about today, we're in a better position to come up for air and look around and see who we can help. So I know people got very creative, for example, with their house helps, with their gardeners, with their, you know, their domestic workers. You know, we really were all in this together. We may not have been in the same boat, but we were in the same ocean. Yeah, so again, happiness is the gift that keeps on giving.
Okay, again, our conversation today is setting intentions, as you've heard, to ensure that whatever goals you set yourself or you've set for yourself for the year, you will be able to not only achieve them, but also sustain them. And you've heard from all our speakers as to how they've gone about that. And we'll talk more about the same. But before I take this short break, I am informed that you are speaking to us on our social media platforms, even as we asked you the question today, did you set any resolutions for this year? And if not, why? Alberto Bato says, pandemic taught many a lesson. Okay, that means perhaps you haven't set your goals. Please tell us more. Bueno Abu says, nope, I had set last year, Corona ikakula. I can't repeat the same mistake. Bueno, as we are saying, we're always given a new year to try again, at least try. Tana May says, no, I want to be surprised by the year. We'll talk more about not having anything set on stone and what that could be or lead to. Baraka Evelyn Chebet says, the only resolution I make is to trust God with my everything. That is very important, very important. Lazarus Isigi says, no, because I'm doing some final touches on the 2013 resolutions. I say, that has been a while. It's really been a while. Eugene Matasio says, I'm still working on last year. I hear you. And we'll be touching about some of those things that need to carry over to the new year. Helen Maluki says, with overtaxation and Corona, no resolutions, is just surviving and hoping for the best. Helen, we hear you. Kennedy Yaw says, Corona is still around with us. No need for resolutions because nothing can be achieved. Really, Kennedy? I differ, and I'm sure everybody here can. Morunga John says this year we are just leaving and letting things happen. Morunga, we'll talk about that in a moment. Hilaya Yule says humans make plans but forget that God has the last say. It's true, but then again, he also says God helps those who help themselves, so at least have some plans. Priska Kaguri says, I have and it's already working. Yay! A positive thinker there. And when we come back from the break, I'd like to hear from CC and, of course, the panelists, the dangers of not actually walking into the year with a sort of a laid out plan. Fine, we're being cautious, but then again, we need to put our best foot forward. Stay with us.
It's our responsibility to fully participate in ending this coronavirus pandemic. Let us know that early detection of the symptoms will ensure early intervention to manage the symptoms and a quick recovery from the disease. Let us therefore be vigilant and not anxious as we trust and believe in God, our source of healing and restoration, as stated in Jeremiah chapters 30 and verses 17. But I will restore you. I will heal you. I will heal your wounds, declares the Lord.
I'm waking you up to the hottest morning show. Tina Kagia, The Morning Fix, Nation FM.
Hey, how are you doing? I am Tina Kagia, aka The Voice. And every single morning, starting from 6 up until 10, catch me on The Morning Fix on 96.3 Nation FM, where good music lives. Let's have awesome conversations. Talk about life, love, money, politics, school, education. No topic is out of bounds.
Mornings with Tina Kagia, 96.3.
Nothing but the best of conversations. Talk about your stories, because honestly, it's important to unwind. See you every day.
All the hits with Tina Kagia.
They're my morning show.
The Morning Fix on Nation FM. Nation FM, where good music lives.
All these reporters are assuming we know what female genital mutilation is.
It's one of those stories that I've watched before. It leaves me with more questions than answers, you know.
I don't see how this story moves the fight against FGM forward.
There's no new angle. There's no newness.
But that PTC at the border, for me, was the story.
And that PTC for me is the problem.
Dennis, what is Nyembeza Uwasi? What is Uwasi?
Don't guess.
Sasa, mimi ni Zuri kutoka Safaricom na niko hapa kukuchanua. Kaa macho. Safaricom upiga kutoka 0722 000 000 pekee. Ukipigiwa na namba nyingine, usipeane maelezo yako ya kibinafsi. Tuma namba ya mkora kwa 333 ili Safaricom ichukue hatua.
At ZTech University, we are committed to excellence. We have adhered to the Ministry of Health COVID-19 guidelines, keeping our students and the learning environment safe. We're back. We're safe. We're learning. ZTech University. Invent your future.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gashanja, and today we're talking about setting intentions into the new year. Yes, it's the 18th day of January, but then again, it's said when you set resolutions, people fall off around this time towards the end of the month. So we are ensuring that we set intentions so that we can stay the course. And speaking of which, in studio, still with Sisi Ojani Bekor, who is an executive and wellness coach, and also the founder of the main Protagonist Coaching, Elma Oro in the other studio, who is a virtual assistant, Enoch Magak, who is a social media manager, and Juliana Matisia joining us virtually. She is an accountant and an entrepreneur. Thank you for staying with us. Now, in line with our conversation today, Brian Moshiri spoke to Pastor Mr. T on the importance of setting intentions for the year, and this is what they had to say.
Once again, we are at it together, and everyone is doing the most to set resolutions. But take a moment and think of the year that was, 2020. Well, folks, 2021 is here with us, and this morning, I'm speaking to Pastor Mr. T to talk to me about the importance of setting intentions and not resolutions. Good morning, Mr. T.
Morning, morning.
By the way, I need to take care of my Pastor Mr. T, because I keep forgetting that pastor part.
Just call me Mr. T.
Mr. T,
yes, yes, that's okay.
Asante sana kwa kuona my invitation.
Thank you.
And I would like us to get straight into it.
Yes.
I mean, talk to me about setting intentions. Why is this important? Kukua intent, kukua na hiyo intent.
Even the word resolution, it comes from the word resolve. It means something didn't work, so you are trying to come up with something this time. So whatever even pushes you to make a resolution is a pressure that will die. And that's why many people don't stick to the resolution, because there is a pressure of I didn't utilize the last season as I ought to have to. So there is this pressure that I'm comforting and encouraging myself and saying, now I'm going to fulfill what I never fulfilled in the last season. What you need to understand, it is calendars that flip, but attitudes and temperaments don't flip. So if I had a wrong attitude in 2020, it's only a night. 31st we shout, make noise, say Happy New Year, but attitudes don't change. And when you come now to intentions, it means this is a game of attitude. It's a game of saying, I'm going here and I have to achieve this thing. Time sometimes may not be a factor. Time may, of course, it's good to work with timelines, but even when you don't achieve, you will always come back and audit and ask, what happened and how can I overcome the challenges? So intentions are birthed from vision. So when the vision is so clear, you don't need to work for the future. You begin to work from the future. So you already have this big picture and you're working from that big picture, coming to where you are.
So it's some sort of working backwards.
Yes, it's working backward. When the future is not very clear, you need something to threaten you. You know. I still was told of a guy who went in January to the gym and the parking lot was full.
Yes.
And he checked and was like, hey, what's up, man? And he asked, are you sure this is the place? Will I get space? And I was told, you know what, this is January. Wait for Feb. The parking lot will be empty. Because this January has a lot of pressure. But a person that has a clear vision, he's working from the future. And that's where the intentions come, because intentions feed to mission. And the mission is the day-to-day activities, the baby steps that we make towards the big picture where we are headed to.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Hapo kwa gym, hapo sana kwa sababu maneno, I think the pressure in January is just too much. I think maybe if you speak to someone who owns perhaps a SACCO or your regular bank or your gym, they'll tell you in January we have the highest amount of accounts opened because people are imagining they want to save throughout the year. Gym kumeja, kumeshona.
Yeah.
So in your view, why is it tunakufianga wapi? Where's the trap? January tumeanza vizuri, sote tunaenda gym. Alafu.
That's why I said it's a game of attitude. You see momentum, your attitude determines your altitude. And you can never build momentum if you don't have the right attitude. So the moment you begin something because of pressure, pressure dies. And what happens, you see the principle, there's what we call the principles of flight. Something we're taught in Form 2, it's called the Bernoulli's principle. It's a physics concept whereby the pressure below must be higher than the pressure above. So life is like there's so much pressure to keep you down, and so you must have the ability to generate pressure from below so that you can overcome the pressure above. So if you don't sustain the momentum of creating, you know, the propellers, if you don't sustain the momentum of always creating pressure, the pressure above does not change. It is always there to suppress and push you down. So what happens is, like in January, we have this capacity and strength to create momentum, but we don't have the same strength in February, and so the momentum goes down and it dies. And then now there's this hope that I'll wait for January again to kickstart the process. Now you need to know that time waits for no man, and you know, wasted time. In fact, time comes with three facets. There's the second, the minutes, and the hour hand. It has moments, events, and seasons. So whatever we are calling the gym concept, whereby you begin very early, results are not immediately, but guess what? It is the persistent, continuous investment of moments that give birth to an event whereby we see results. And it is the persistent events that change a season. So most of us don't have the capacity to sustain moments in our lives. We give up so quickly, and it is the accumulation of moments that interfere with events. And an event is something that announces you. They say champions are made in the gym, but always celebrated in the ring. So the gym moment, those are moments, and no one celebrates you in the gym. It is the ring that announces you. It's where we see the results, but you need to know the labors. So we must have the capacity to generate momentum that is going to last us a whole year. Before a plane takes off, this is the mystery. It has to rave. There's something they call RMS, you know, rave per second. It has to rave to the takeoff speed. That's why we always hear the engine revving as we are on the runway. For those who've had the opportunity to possibly travel, it raves to the launching speed. So what does it do? It generates the momentum that is going to launch out with. They say a plane spends a lot of fuel while on the ground before it even takes off. So by the time it's hitting the runway, the work of the pilot is to control the speed so that when it hits an area called the PNR, that looks like a zebra crossing, that is a point of no return. At that area, the captain releases the plane into full speed that he had generated while on the ground before it even hit the runway. So that is the principle of life. You generate enough capacity that can drive you the whole year. Now for us believers, we pray for 40 days every beginning of the year, 2107, to generate spiritual capacity to sustain us in the year.
Let me just stop you right there.
Yes.
When you say praying for 21 days, and is this prayer with fasting or prayer with intent?
But of course, you can't launch out for prayers without intentions. There are things you want to achieve. There are things you've set up and you just want to be aligned to the will of God. You see, like 2020, many of the plans of men, people had taken loans, they knew this is the year. Boom, COVID happens. No one knew about it. But I can tell you some people in church saw it in the spirit. So they knew this year, no borrowing, borders will be closed. And they were like, this is the year not to invest. It's called the wisdom of Issachar. The tribe of Issachar understood times and seasons. So there are people who tapped and knew, wow, this one is not the year. Let's wait for the next season. So prayers with fasting gives us the capacity to understand where is the direction of God, where is God taking us, so that now you align yourself with the move that is at the present.
Now, you've brought in a very important fact of 2020, the year that was. How does one now unveil themselves from that wreckage of an year, if I may call it, and launch yourself into a better person in 2021?
Again, I'll go back. For me, it's also an issue of perception, and also attitude. You know, when it's raining outside, you have an option to give an excuse that I'm not going to work. Or you have an option of also looking for an umbrella and you protect yourself from the rain. So the way we view things in life really matters. So there are those, there's the optimistic and the pessimistic, all those people. So there's a person who will get the reason to say, 2020 was bad, and that's the reason I am where I am, nothing seems to work, everything was affected. And there's a person who will say, 2020 was bad for everyone, and 2021 looks like it is giving us hope. We need to step out. Let's look for the umbrella. The umbrella simply means I cannot stop the rain, but I can protect myself from the rain. So there's a person who will look at the rain and say, the rain is there, so why should I go out? And another one will say, I have no ability to stop the rain, but I have the ability to protect myself from the rain, and I continue with what I need to do. So we need to come to a place and appreciate what we can change, but also we need to come to a place and appreciate what we can do even as we navigate through what we cannot change. So that's where the perception and the attitude comes in, because life is full of that. We don't even know how 2021 will be. We don't know whether we'll have COVID 2021. You know, they're saying these trains are keep on changing. We don't know what is going to happen. You know, the weather patterns keep on changing. The political temperature in Kenya, we are not sure. The tensions are already rising and all that. So it is that point of saying, this external I cannot change, but there's something in me that I can change, and that's how I approach what is coming along. And that's where contentment comes. That is where you appreciate that this was not my failure, this was circumstances, so I cannot blame myself for natural circumstance. Like as I was coming, I got a flat tire. So I texted you and told you, you know, I couldn't stop the tire from a flat tire, but I had to think of how quick do I fix it so that I can arrive where I'm arriving. The other option would have been, hey bro, I can't come, I just got a flat tire. What do you think? We cancel that thing. So it is that perception and attitude. Life is ups and downs. It's like the way the waves rise, at the end of the day, they will settle. So until we enter into seasons with that understanding, we'll appreciate. You know, this song done by the band, El Shaddai, amazing song. They say, God, give me the serenity to appreciate what I cannot change and change what I can change. That serenity is needed in life.
Okay, now we are coming to the end of this conversation here, and again, something that has come up again is the fact that you talk about change. Now, it is said that to change from when you want to change the outside, you ought to start changing from the inside.
Very true.
Why is this important? And as you close, how does one now achieve this?
The greatest battle, by the way, is not external. The greatest battle is eternal. If you can change the battle of identity, perception, how you view yourself, automatically you'll be able to deal with external battles. Because all these things need attitude and identity. You see, I'll give a good example. When David showed up in the battlefield, the brothers began to attack his identity. You are just a young boy. What are you going to do? That was an external battle, but the man had confidence. He knew this is a giant that I'm able to kill. So you have to win inside before you win outside.
Wow. I think it's a very, very candid conversation there with Pastor Mr. T. And I think unaenda kupreach Buddha, as in you've gotten into the zone, you've gotten into your zone. Ama bado hata hujaanza.
Nika politician akiona watu tu ana flow.
Ana flow nayo. I mean, that's the word right here this morning on Your World. And this morning, guys, from Brian Mushiri, Pastor Mr. T, perhaps from everyone here, is set intentions and not resolutions for this year. My name is Brian Mushiri. Cheers.
A great conversation there between Brian and Mr. T. I think it goes to answer even a lot of that feedback we were getting with people being a bit too wary in setting intentions for this year. And some saying, you know what, 2020 linionesha mambo, wacha tu niachane na 21, ninyenyekee, wherever we shall go, we go. Well, as you've heard, the years will change, but it's the attitude and the perception in you that actually decides what kind of a year that you will have. And speaking of which, I am curious to know, Elmer, we are asking everyone else if they set resolutions for the year. Did you?
I actually did not set resolutions. I set intentions. And I think for me, I find resolutions to be limiting. You know, it's kind of like you're just focusing on one particular thing, or, you know, as the pastor said, it's kind of you're trying to fix something. But for me, setting intentions means I'm focusing on a journey, and I'm also allowing myself to adapt and change and grow as long as, you know, I get to achieve the intentions that I've set. So yeah, definitely for me, intentions versus resolutions.
Okay, and for you, Juliana, any resolutions written somewhere?
I think I'm very bad at resolutions. I'm those people who disappear on the 15th, you know, about now, by the 20th, I'm done. But the idea of intentions is simply amazing. I went through a course that defines life in 12 categories. And every category has a plan, intentions, and a plan, you know, a purpose for why I want it, how I want it, and what I have to do to get it. So the intentions are set in what I have to do to get it. And that's what I'm trying to live by now. It starts from my personal life, to my parenting, to my business, to my career. And that's what I'm trying to live by now, intentionally, every day. And I think it's a good, it's a good thing to do. I wanted to comment on the people who say 2020 was so bad, we're just surviving 2021. To survive, you need a plan, even if you're not doing anything else. Simply to survive 2021, you need a plan. So I think it's a good place to be, to just have an hata kama ni moja, just even one.
Yeah.
Just have something.
Either way, you need
Thank
a
you.
roadmap as to how you're going to survive. That's a good one. That's a good one. And for the gentleman, do you have any resolutions, Enoch?
Always serving the best for the last. Well, I really appreciate. Now, there's a confession I want to make right here. I don't know whether the cameraman can see this. This has been, if I could call it a resolution, has been my resolution ever since I started writing resolutions. I've never made any other. So when I hear people saying they're changing the resolutions every year, I don't know what they keep on changing. So this is what I've ever thought of owning, having a family, and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that is my resolution. And I'd never keep on changing anything because, when you're talking about an intention, you say it's something that allows you to focus on what you are in that moment, right? And this is something that gives you the emotional energy. It's something that gives you the physical energy. And it actually keeps you aligned within your values and also the purpose and so forth that you want to achieve in life. So when people say that they keep on refreshing, their goals, their resolutions, I keep on wondering, what are you recreating? Are you reinventing the wheel? It's the same thing that you want to achieve. Have your beautiful house, have your beautiful family, have your nice car that you want to drive. Thrive, not survive like what she has just said. As we want to thrive, even the digital space right now has actually given us the power to determine on how much we can earn. Why don't we all rush to this platform even before the government starts, taxing us through the digital space, and make sure that we thrive and earn money and make ourselves comfortable. And this is actually what makes me passionate about what I am doing every now and then, because now I'm putting it my daily routine. It has to be in everything I do. In the morning, I wake up, this is what I check. When I check on my booklet and I see I haven't achieved number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, I start redefining all my goals and the values. And then I say, if I was in the bank for 4 years and I didn't even manage to build such a house, I didn't manage to buy this kind of vehicle, about family is something that of course will come later on. Then am I in the wrong place? What else can I do? That is what I could say about resolutions. And maybe, Gladys, you should also show me whether you have something like this or you've already achieved everything, and even the panelists as well.
All right. It's a very interesting perspective that Enoch actually puts across, because I am sure you've seen on the social media with people talking about this mood boards that you need to put across to kind of give you guidance into the kind of year you would want and what you'd like to achieve. Now, juxtaposing that with what Enoch says, what exactly are resolutions? What are these intentions? Are we saying that these are the things I would like to achieve, and every year I remind myself of how to get there?
Yeah, life happens, as 2020 showed us. Life happens. What I like about intentions is it allows you to pivot. It allows you to cooperate, as I said, with the changes that are coming at you. I really like what Enoch said, because how I understood what he was saying is it's important not to be flaky, to say you want this on Monday or January 15th and then to say something completely different on January 20th. When you're intentional, remember what I said, the intention comes from within. You find yourself being less flaky about stuff. Yeah. So the vehicle that you use to get you to where you want to be might change, but the goal remains the same, right? So for example, if we talk about this idea of gymming, why are we gymming? The destination is health. But like I said earlier, I'm not a gym person. If I told myself in January, right, I'm going to the gym, I would be one of those people falling off the wagon at this time of the year. But when I look within and I ask myself, Cece, it's about health, it's about fitness. how else, in other words, what other vehicles are there out there to get me to that place of health and fitness? The gym is just one thing you can do. You can go for walks, you can go for runs, you can swim, you can do yoga. I do Qigong, which is an Eastern methodology. So the destination tends to be the same for many of us, but the vehicle that will get you there, do I stay in banking or do I leave? Do I become a coach or do I do something else? Do I become a host on television or do I do something else? The destination is the same. The magic happens in giving yourself permission to choose the vehicle that you want to get you there. And it is really important to set, look, at the end of the day, it's also just semantics. Whatever word you prefer, resolutions, intentions, we're talking about having, as you say, a roadmap. Yeah. Now, there might be, just here in Nairobi, for example, I live in Westlands. So we woke up one day and there were all these barriers and construction and earth movers everywhere.
And trees gone.
Exactly. And trees gone, unfortunately. So things happen, but the roadmap to the destination can change. You're still going where you're going, but you might have to detour. You might have to take a left on James Gishuru because you can't go straight. You might have to take a right earlier on, but you're still going to the same place. Yeah, this is why it's important to have that roadmap. If you live in Westlands and you're going to Karen, right, and you haven't bothered to check Google Maps, you're just like, you know what, I've been on this road many times before, I know how to get to so-and-so's house. In this Nairobi of ours, where any given day there could be anything blocking you, isn't the smart thing to do before you enter the car just to check Google Maps? Yeah, to see where is there an obstruction, where is there the traffic. So when I hear people saying I'm not making any plans, I'm you know, some of the people who are tweeting, and I know some of them were joking, but it's you set yourself up if you don't do that. You'll become that person who jumps into the car, drives to Karen, hits a roadblock, or a truck has overturned, there's been an accident, now you're late, now you're frustrated. You could have just looked before you entered the car and gone, oh wait, there's something happening on that road, let me see which other road I can take. All this is to say it always helps to be prepared. Yeah, and let me share a quick story. Elma and I actually met for the first time today, but we are in a women's networking group together. And I put the call out. I said, hey, I'm going to be on NTV. They're looking for people to share their amazing stories of 2020, stories of change, stories of resilience. And I assure you, if she hadn't been ready, she was one of the first person to message me back, share her story, and I said, I'm giving them your number. That happened because she was prepared. If you're not prepared, you miss out on the opportunity. Yeah, so we were actually just high-fiving each other back there because it's just nice. Something we've co-created something so quickly. Because I only sent that message, I think, was it Thursday or Friday? So preparedness will really help you. You can get prepared in January for something coming at you in April. But if you're not prepared, you'll miss the opportunity.
Very well said. And there's something that I'm hearing here. Okay, fine. So you need the vehicle to get to the destination. The vehicle is actually you. So let's talk about the status of that vehicle. I'll start off with you, Juliana. You are probably in the 45 plus age group. So you've seen the cycles of life in and out, in and out. What are the things about you that you've seen change over time to make you a better person today?
Wow, that's a heavy one. I think we spoke earlier about, the status of what you were. For example, I was in corporate for many years. I had the privilege of being called madame, so to speak. And when that ends and you come out here and I become a vegetable vendor, literally, a lot of times you get up and ask yourself, what am I doing? What am I doing? And, it takes a mental shift to actually realize that what I have been has nothing to do with what I am today. What I want to be has nothing to do with where I have been. And if I am to achieve the things I want to do, I have to be the person in the moment and not in the past. I have had a friend of mine one time amused me when she said, She was in a big corporate job, and one time she had produce in the farm, and she packed it and took it to Ngara. And a friend of hers, she called a friend of hers to sell to them, and they asked her, people are selling houses, you are selling vegetables, you know? And that is the mindset of so many of us. And I'll surprise you. The place where people are flourishing is in these jobs, so-called dirty jobs, you know, where I have my little produce, I come and sell it, I make my money, take it and use it. While the rest of us, some of us, get stuck in our corporate jobs, not necessarily very good. For example, when Corona came, a lot of us just got stuck and did nothing. Some people lost jobs and they did nothing. Opportunities were there, not necessarily visible, not very many, but they were there. A few people took them up and they made some progress. Maybe not too much, but some progress. So for me, I've had to really be adaptive to look at where I am today and fit in that place, as opposed to where I was, where I wanted to be, how I wanted to be there. When you talk about plans and, you know, the year comes like 2020 did, if you follow the road like you're going and you find a stone, do you just hit the stone and get stuck there? No, you move around it. So 2020 came, it brought more than stones, of course, probably huge gullies. And if you didn't do anything, you'd dive right into the gully and perished. But you find a gully, you stop and make new plans. So plans are not static. Neither our intentions are not static. I have planned, I want to be healthy. What happens if you fall sick? You don't keep running to the gym, you're gonna die. So you have to stop and realize, this is what I want, but this is my situation right now. What do I do? So for me, I have learned to be adaptive and very much teachable. I'm one of those people who, you know, tend to be knowing. But I have learned in 2020, there's nothing I cannot learn. I listened to someone who said, we're living at the best time in history of the world, not just Kenya. Because right now, you can learn anything and everything you want to be. There's nothing you cannot learn. And each of us, most of us have internet on our phones. What do we use the internet we have on our phones for? There's so much to learn. There's free content all over. But you'll find a lot of us still, you know, whiny about situations. Today, I can learn to be anything I want to be. You know, if I wanted to be an acoustic engineer like my co-panelist, I would literally go online and look at it. Of course, it sounds scary, but I'm sure I'll find someone who has talked about it. So we're living in a time when you can adapt to any situation you're in. You can literally adapt. If it's something, you can learn it and do it. So for me, I've learned to be teachable and extremely adaptive. I'm telling you, I could start to swim international if I wanted to. I'll just learn how to swim. Of course, that's, you know, yeah, but I can literally learn anything. So that's what I learned in 2020.
Excellent. Well said. Said with a lot of wisdom for somebody who's been around to see a couple of cycles of her life. Now, we're about to take another short break, but still asking you that question. Did you set any resolutions for this year? And if not, why? And a lot of you speaking to us this morning. We have Cherop Nelly who says, Mimi sina resolution, nilikuja 2021 tu na mask pekee. Martin Wamala says, according to what happened last year, we now live day by day. Martin, we hear you, but I hope you're taking notes of our conversation today. Eriko says, still studying January 2021 to see if it's worth the try. Well, darling, as long as you're alive, it is. Titus Kiprono says, one day at a time. Muhimu sana, 2020 taught us that. Joseph Wafula says, last year we planned, but God executed. Imagine the same applies to this year, but you've got to change your attitude around it. Mr. War says, not yet. I'm 1 year behind. The ones I made for 2020 cannot just be wished away, and I really don't wish to overburden myself. Just want to keep it real. When we come back from the break, I really would like to talk about this carryover effect that most people are talking about. Hilary Keep Quiet says, we plan, but God is the one who decides. And it's true. At least have a plan. Let him decide otherwise. We take a short break. We'll be back.
news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
New Year comes with New Year deals. Renew your corporate subscription and get a bonus. Subscribe to Nation e-paper for 3 months and get 1 week absolutely free. 6 months and get 2 weeks absolutely free. 1 year and get 3 weeks absolutely free. To sign up, visit epaper.nationmedia.com or email subscription@ke.nationmedia.com. Offer valid till 28th February 2021.
Acha nikae kwenye mpini, hafi njaa.
Na kila mmoja ana riziki yake.
Mimi vile na hustle hivi, hii ndio jasho langu.
Kila Jumanne katika NTV jioni utapata makala maalum ya jasho langu, kuangazia raha na karaha, heri na shari za watu katika kazi na vibarua mbalimbali.
Mimi Max Riala, na kuunda glass ndilo jasho langu.
Na hii ndio jasho langu.
Naitwa The African Dogman, na hii ndio haso yangu.
Nami ni Daniel Mule, na hili ndilo jasho langu.
At Zetech University, we are committed to excellence. We have adhered to the Ministry of Health COVID-19 guidelines, keeping our students and the learning environment safe. We're back. We're safe. We're learning. Zetech University. Invent your future.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gashanja, and I'd like to hear from Enoch. Again, I mentioned that we are the common denominator in the story that is our life, and self-improvement, which is what we all seek, comes with you acknowledging that you have weaknesses. Now, I started off with you because you're a guy. Okay? And this can be a very difficult thing for a guy, but is this something that you are conscious about and constantly work on?
Okay, I don't know how to start answering that because I've been used to hearing from what ladies say fast before but anyway, could you refresh a little bit? I didn't hear that, I missed it.
Okay. Are you aware of the weaknesses you have as a guy, and are you conscious on working on them to better yourself?
Definitely, most definitely. Let me just get back a little bit on when I decided to leave the bank, go jobless, and start doing what I was passionate in. Number one, I hadn't done any savings. Number one, I hadn't done enough savings, not any, but enough savings. So I didn't have a well-structured plan that was going to enable me survive without a job and as well as finish my master's at school. So I kept on praying every morning, fasting, and talking to friends and asking them, do you think this is a right decision I'm making? Because one, I am a very poor decision maker. So if I don't hear what my friends will tell me, sometimes I feel like I've really done something wrong. If they actually tell me, yes, then this is what you could actually do, then I would grab that and at least now restructure and do something that can actually make me follow whatever that I want to achieve. So number one, I am a very poor decision maker. But above all, what I noted is if you will never be a risk taker, then in life, you might never achieve anything. What you need to do is go and make that one thing that you are very passionate in part of your daily routine. Because if you feel that you have that fear towards making a decision, like it is my weakness every time I feel like I want to do something, I feel like I need to consult. Hey, bro, hey, sis, hey, mom, hey, dad, what do you think I can do? So if I don't get that kind of advice, most of the time I feel like I always make wrong decisions. But above all, what I have noted and how I've decided to overcome this is, number one, I need to believe in myself. And I need to understand that concept that I want to drive. Check my values, every time check on the goals. And ideally, try to hook my dream together with what I want to achieve in life. I really want to thank what the digital space has given us. Because nowadays, if you feel like you are messy in your decisions and in whatever you want to do, you can actually go and watch the Motivacity videos. You can just go and watch inspirational videos and so forth, and then, try and see whether you can fit whatever that you're weak on, and try and change your lifestyle, maybe in terms of saving, which I never used to do when I was in the bank, though, because that's why maybe, I don't know, I didn't achieve most of the things that I ought to have achieved. So my number one weakness, poor decision making. Number two, savings. I'm very pathetic on that. So definitely these are the things I'm also trying to work towards, so that at least I can have a better and brighter way of achieving one of my dreams, and also achieving also my career path.
Okay, now Enoch, I'd like you to put up that book you put out for us that has your mood board that has been part of your life for a while.
All right, sure. Here it is.
Okay, and on it, we cannot see it clearly, but on it was the house you'd like to live in, the car you'd like to drive, the family you'd want to have. Now, guess what? For all those things to happen, you need to polish up on your decision making, but also you need to polish up on the savings and investments, right?
Yes.
So the time to ensure that that is done is now, for you to make that next step, right?
Definitely.
I love the fact that you're aware of your weaknesses. Let's hear from Elma. What are your weaknesses, and what is this that you are consciously working towards?
I think one of my main weaknesses or my main flaws is imposter syndrome, and that I've worked with that for a really long time. Even when I was still actively practicing as an engineer, I really struggled with imposter syndrome, and even when I was thinking about starting my business, I had so many doubts. I was like, okay, so I'm going to start this business. Not a lot of people in Kenya know about it, number one. Number two, where am I even going to get clients? Number three, am I even good enough for this? I don't even have the skills to do this. And so, yeah, I feel like though, I'm doing better at speaking to myself and affirming myself and reminding myself that I can do whatever I set out to do. And of course, being kinder to myself. So many times we speak so badly to ourselves that it impacts just how far we can go. We kind of already limit ourselves and say, you know what, you're so bad at XYZ, you're never going to do this. And then that just actually happens because that's what you keep telling yourself. And so I think that's definitely something I'm really, really working at, trying to overcome imposter syndrome.
Okay, and Sisi can help you out with that one, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Juliana, again, you have more experience, but age is just but a number, as they say. And with age, you think you'd get to a point where you feel like you have all the answers, but you still get to a point where you question some things about yourself. What are these things that you're still polishing on?
Well. I am a very opinionated person. It takes a lot of effort for me to look at an opinion that is not mine and take it in. And of course, in this journey of my business, it has been tested and hit until now I know, all right, I don't know much. So I'm learning every day. I'm also a person who stops, and I'm very good at justifying myself. One of my best subjects in high school was literature. I can justify any situation. If I don't want to wake up in the morning, I have a good reason for it. And I'm very convincing to myself. Of course, that just adds energy to my weaknesses. So I'm learning how to, schedule and do things I am supposed to do, whether I want to do them or not. That is not easy for me. Another thing that I am is I'm a big picture person. I don't like the details. Of course, as an accountant, you start with the first entry, the second, the third. Then as you grow in the accounting career, you get to the big picture only. You look at the balance sheet and not the little entries that make up, that figure in the balance sheet. And now I got stuck in the big picture aspect. So I struggle with details like how many bunches of skuma did I bring this week? How many oranges did I sell? I struggle with the little details. And of course, in business, they're the only things that count. So I'm struggling a lot with getting myself into the little details every day and in every situation. Among other struggles, those are some of my highlights.
Okay, now first of all, kudos to everyone for being vulnerable enough to talk about your weaknesses. Not most people do not like to introspect. I think it's the hardest thing to do for any human being. But now that we're talking about our weaknesses, Sissy, you are the founder of the Main Protagonist Coaching, and I loved your explanation about why you called your business as such.
Yeah.
Please elaborate on why it ties in to why we're asking about our weaknesses and what we need to do about them.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've been teased in the past by some of my friends, because I remember one guy saying, Sissy, you called your business the Main Protagonist. That's like calling yourself Captain America. And I said, no, I'm not the main protagonist. The main protagonist is another way of describing the person who plays the lead role in a film, a movie, a play, a series. And I picked that business name so that I can remind people that you are the one playing the lead role in the story of your life. You're the main character. You're it. And I didn't change my business name because I did a workshop in Australia and I just explained to people the reason I called my business that. And then I proceeded on with the workshop as normal. And at the end of the workshop, one lady came up to me and said, when you shared the story of why you called your business the Main Protagonist, I realized that I've been the sidekick my whole life. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I'm always the helper. And that story has stayed with me. This happened many years ago. That story has stayed with me. And another thing I want to invite people to do is to think about how you've cast your life. So when a film is being produced, the casting director goes out there and looks for who's going to play the lead role, who's going to play the love interest, who's going to play the villain, who's going to play the friend, who's going to play, etc., etc. And how you've cast your life is really, really important. Who have you picked as the love interest in the story of your life? And are you happy with that decision? Who have you picked as the best friend or the best friends? I coached somebody last year who said she realized that some of these people she was calling friends were not friends at all. The friendship was not nourishing. It actually left her feeling drained and always wanting to compete with the others in the group. So you play the lead role in the story of your life. Think about that. It's a privilege. It's a very important role. And it's important to reflect on, well, what is the main protagonist, i.e. me, doing in this situation? Yeah, the reason why we watch James Bond movies, even though we know he's going to win in the end, we still keep watching James Bond movies because we want to see what will he do. We want to see, what will Wonder Woman do? This thing is about to happen. The villain is doing all these things over here, over there. What is this person going to do? That's why we're so drawn to storytelling. And it's really important to see your life as a story, see your life as an adventure. Yeah, I love the stories that all the other guests have shared. And for me, I just think to myself, wow, what an adventure. And it's a great story. I was in corporate. They called me Madame. Now I'm selling vegetables and I'm doing well and I'm happy and I'm in the earth and I'm, you're not just selling vegetables, Juliana. You're nourishing and nurturing people. That's another thing I like to share with my clients. Remember to focus on who you're helping and how you're helping them. But the bottom line is your life is an adventure. 2020 was part of that adventure. And when you're on your deathbed, my siblings and I and my mom had the privilege of being around our dad when my dad was passing away. And my dad was so content. He lived such an adventurous life, to go from being that kid who goes to school barefoot. And my dad wasn't a liar, so I really do believe him when he says that. To be that kid going to school barefoot, to having grandchildren in some of the best universities in the world, that's an amazing story. You know, he played the role of the main protagonist in his life very well. So for me, I'm just really interested in inspiring people and reminding them that your life is an adventure. And if we go back to the topic, if you don't set intentions, if James Bond doesn't have a plan, the movie will be quite tragic, I think.
But then again, even with the main protagonist, we see them having weaknesses that the villain always takes advantage of. So the importance of being aware and actually harnessing your strengths. Talk about that.
Yes. Well, okay, let's talk about, for example, the movie The Avengers. Why do you get together as a group? Is because one person can't do everything. You have your areas of strength and you have the areas that need improvement. So for me, I don't even like using the word weakness. It's just an area that needs improvement or an area of focus. So for me, for example, I tend to jump very quickly into problem-solving mode, which is why I'm a good coach, right? I'm an effective coach. What I had to learn was the importance of feeling and being in the moment, even when the moment is crap. And this builds resilience. So we all have areas of focus, areas to improve on. What can you do? Acknowledge it, as you say, get together, build your own Avengers team. You know, who's the person going to help you with this? Who's the person going to help you with that? Who are you going to help with that other thing over there? So our weaknesses, areas of focus, whatever you want to call it, should not make us feel sad or down. And I actually think this is something that is happening to a lot of people, as we said earlier. Many of us didn't achieve what we had wanted to achieve in 2020, so now we're scared, you know. And the truth is, we have experienced traumas. Trauma is not just, oh my God, I was in a car accident and I had a terrible time and it took me a year to recover. That's one form of trauma. But there's another kind of trauma, which is just little things happening over and over and over again. Something not working, and then it's not working again, and it's still not working. And I have a feeling that that's what is making some people afraid to dive right into 2021. And here's the reality, Gladys. 2020 is over. It has passed. It has gone. We are now in 2021. You have an opportunity to hit the refresh button and start all over again. Time is an illusion. The earth is not thinking, well, it's January 15th, I better do this to the people on the planet. The days just go on, one day after another, sunrises, sunsets, etc., etc. Time is an invention of human beings so that we could organize ourselves better. Show up here at 9, I'll show up here at 9, we'll have the meeting. But time is an illusion. The days are just flowing one day into another, and you have an opportunity to reinvent yourself every single time.
Very well said. And Alma, I'm wondering, do you have a support system that walks with you? Because they say, no man is an island.
I have a really good support system around me. I have friends and also, you know, fellow business owners. One thing that we have all come to learn is having an online business and working purely online can be very lonely. And, you know, entrepreneurship can also be very lonely if you don't have a tribe of people around you to help you keep going. But, you know, so I think one thing though that I've learned is to be very intentional with the people I choose to be around me, because it's not all the time that the people you choose to be around you are going to be good for you, are going to nourish you, are going to lift you up. You know, sometimes they're just there for the good ride, but then when it gets a bit bumpy, you know, they're kind of like, okay, well, I'm just gonna hop off now. So yeah, definitely I do have a support system around me.
Okay, and Enoch, for you, who are the boys that walk with you? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it can get exciting hanging out with the boys, but you need the real people, the real stuff to actually be the best version of you.
All right. With me, I believe my family has been my pillar most of the time, because I always consult my dad on most of the things that I do and most of the things that I want to achieve in life. But above all, we know that in life, sometimes you need a mentor, somebody who can actually guide you through your career path or through your values that you want to achieve in life. So, well, I have a mentor sometimes who actually tells me, Enoch, you have to do things this way and the other way around. But above all, what I believe is anytime when you engage yourself with your clique, not just with the boys, not with just the boys club, but also when you attend sessions, you know, webinars and so forth, there are a lot of things that you get to learn. So most of the time you might actually have been doing something the wrong way, thinking that you have been doing it the right way, and then you just come to notice that somebody's culture, somebody's way of doing things is so different, and then you start reinventing yourself and thinking of how can I do it better than what somebody else has actually done. So what I believe is, believing in myself is one thing, by the way, I always want to do, not just hearing what other people say, but above all, it's about getting to know exactly how they have made it, how they've achieved it. You could also learn through the challenges they've gone through, because, well, if you haven't faced any challenge, and I believe you might not be any successful in life. So it's a bit on also learning from what people have been through and trying to be ready to answer every time you face a challenge. And that's why we had to reinvent ourselves after this COVID-19 years. We are out of work, we are jobless. What are we going to do? Then you start looking for different things, go online and check out how did they do. Why is it that Zoom is earning millions? Why is it that Netflix is earning millions? Why can't I do this? You know, we just stop complaining and saying, you know, we do not have money. I am broke. These are the things that I always find myself, you know, deleting out of my vocabulary and saying, I'm not going to say we are broke. Let me say I am broke. You know, let me say that I am not achieving this, not we are not achieving this. People are achieving a lot of things out there, and people have money that you're talking about, you are broke. So it's about checking on what other people have actually achieved in life, how they did that, what challenges they faced, how they actually defined themselves and stood out to be who they are. And that's exactly what I always feel like I want to follow. Yes, you could hear what your people are telling you, but go down and say, hey, is this what I want to achieve in life? Is it me? Is this me actually at this moment? Or am I just trying to pretend on who I am when I am not that person? Because you cannot be pleasing everybody. There's a lot of criticism as well. So, well, you could hear the criticism and then find out on how better you could work your things out, and that's how you can achieve it in your life, and that's what keeps me moving.
Very well said, very well said. Now, Juliana, we've talked about mentorship, the importance of a support system. I'm sure these are things that have been a reality in your life for the success that you've been able to achieve along the way and are still pursuing. So do we still have such people in your life that play that role? Juliana?
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. I have two amazing sons. They're young, but they're determined to support me in especially this business. I find them delivering orders, believe it or not. They know that Saturday morning is business day, and they wake up and take part in the stock taking. You know, they provide my immediate support. Of course, one of my key sources is that in my accounting business, most of my clients are young entrepreneurs, you know, who are starting off in business. So they're young, both in age and in business. So through time, I've had a lot of lessons that I have picked from their businesses that I'm applying into mine. I have partners who are the truth tellers. You know, when I have an idea, there are people I pass it by. Someone will tell me, honestly, Juliana, that's nonsense, you know. I have those people in my life. Then I have the Sandbox, of course, who have every aspect of support that we need, and it's available to us. I happen to have been in the first cohort for the Sandbox, for the Roadmap program. We have a group, we're a team. We stand together, we share ideas, we pass each other's thoughts, by each other, and it's really a safe place to be. So it's amazing. I've tried to get as many support people around me as I can get, and I also have quite a big network of friends where I throw around the ideas, and a few people will tell you the truth, others will support you. So it helps to have people around you, and I have quite a big group. And it's nice.
Excellent. So here again, I reiterate, age is just but a number. Don't think you're too old to ever get counsel. And they also say you're never too young also to get advice. So at this point, I think it is also important, now that we've talked about how to harness yourself to ensure that you deliver on your intentions, how do we also protect ourselves from something that is so close home, self-sabotage?
Self-sabotage. I'm not trying to sell myself here, but what has worked for me is getting my own coaches. So I've been receiving coaching for the last 12 years. I actually turned 40 last week. I'm very excited. So I've been receiving coaching for the last 12 years. I got a coach when I got a managerial position. I got a coach when I started my business. I even got a coach to help me when I was pregnant and I was about to have my first child, my daughter. It is just the quickest, easiest way to prevent yourself from messing up. And let me give you an example. I was so excited about starting this coaching business many years ago. And I remember going to my coach and saying, I'm ready to quit my job and I'm going to do this. And she actually stopped me and said, Cece, are you ready though? You're still learning so much in the job you're in. This is your first managerial position. There's still so much here. I'm just inviting you to reflect on that. And because of that one thing my coach said, I stayed on in my job for an extra year and I learned so much. So one way of stopping yourself from self-sabotage is getting a coach, somebody who doesn't have any other agenda other than to see you succeed, to see you win. When I started my business, I got a coach, as I said, and one of the things my coach helped me with was sales, for example. So I love sales, and selling is service. If you're offering a product or a service that helps people, it's not just the dodgy salesman, saleswoman. No, selling is a service. You actually help make people's dreams come true when you sell from a place of authenticity. So for me, the go-to is get a coach, get a mentor. Your mentor will also stop you from self-sabotage. You can talk to friends, but at some point, you can't just keep hanging out with your friends and mining their brains for information. They too have their own lives. And what happens is over the years, you start to train your brain to notice when you're about to self-sabotage. You start to train your brain. So for example, for me, Gladys, I know I'm scared when I suddenly start feeling tired. I really should do this thing, but I'm so tired, maybe I should take a nap. I now know that that's the voice of self-sabotage, and I pause it right there, and I jump right into what I'm doing. Yeah, so over the years, you will start to train your brain to notice self-sabotage as it's about to happen. But really, 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 you do need to be talking to people who have nothing other than your success on their agenda. That's the best way to deal with that.
Thank you so much, Cece Ojani Bekor, who is an executive and wellness coach, founder, main protagonist coaching. Elma Oro, who is a virtual assistant, Enoch Magak, social media manager, and Juliana Matisio, who's an accountant and an entrepreneur. I mean, guys, we've learned so much from you, and I'm sure you've learned a lot from each other. And thank you for being so vulnerable in walking the journey that has been your life with us for the betterment of those that are watching time this morning, because we are all here trying to figure out what the year is and harness ourselves better to achieve what we've set out to do in the year 2021. Now, tomorrow, we focus on something that most of us are probably still reeling in, but has a lot of life's lessons. We'll be focusing on stories of resilience. I know 2020 was rough and a lot of sad stories have come out of it. But imagine, sadness, loss and grief has been part of life since time immemorial. What happens is that those who are part of these stories find a way to actually live beyond that circumstance. We'll be listening to some of them, and in the course of it, give each other the encouragement we need to face this new year. See you then.